Okay. Let me count to 20. Let's bring some gratefulness and appreciation and some steadfast, I guess, endurance, right? So I'm gonna let the live breathe for a second, because I might start speaking and then the intro might buffer out. So I'm gonna give it about 20 seconds. So I'll count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, hopefully the live could buffer through. It appears that the gift is the curse, and the curse is the gift. Because within the curse, the pressure of darkness is what kind of makes you have a particular struggle. And from that particular struggle, the esoteric seed of growth is pushing through a certain pressure of darkness, right? So obviously I came prepared with today's live stream. I'm just going to go straight into it. That's how I do it. Got some notes, and usually these readings take about an hour, but I'm just going to run through this reading because the intuitive fixing for, the past structured astrology reads or whatever, there's a particular order, so I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm not going to waste any time. So I'll just show you the chart right now. And upon looking at the chart, you could kind of like be in the fill in the blank area, the gray area, and you could, I guess, self-assess or whatever what this means to you, right? So I'm just going to show you the chart, and as I show you the chart, I will explain the chart. So now I'm going to show the chart. And this is like, it's like, obviously like, someone could say no biggie to whatever, but if everything's supposedly all connected, and then one thing leads to another, and you're peeling, the esoteric mask off, like, I guess, a quote-unquote Scooby-Doo villain, then there's always another quote-unquote metaphorical, surprise being that's under the same show, but different shows on the same show. The metaphor of, S-do or whatever. So I'm going to show you the chart. I guess I titled the Astrology Baby's Breath and Esoteric Crossroads. So I'm just going to run through this. I have 2 pages. One's the chart, one's the notes. And I'm just going to show you the chart this time. So I'm going to show you the chart right now. And then as I show you the chart, I'm going to explain what it means. So let's get into it. Wowie Maui. So here we go, guys. We made it. So what this chart means, the intuitive fixing of this chart for the new moon is just straight going to Saturn. The intuitive mistake here was there's a black cube. You could do your own research on the black cube and seeing the paradoxical reality of oneness. On the earth, they're using the black cube as some type of mechanism aside from the duality. There's a duality of Saturn, and we kind of like, the duality of Saturn kind of goes over our head, and the Saturn matrix is tending to polarize it, to tax nature, the Kali Yuga, right? And however, the new esoteric operating system is compensating how they have taxed nature. The Archon Saturn could be in and out simultaneously of his own mechanism, right? He could be in his house and out of his house. And as he's out of his house, what's going on here is he's leasing power to other beings that are inside of his house, right? So simultaneously he's in and out of his house, right? I'll get more into it as we go along. But the thing that's happening within his house is people are kind of catching up on the energetic karma of some to try to rebalance and recalibrate the compensation of how nature has been standardly been taxed and inverted, and how on a different higher operating system, respectively above the Saturn operating system, something could have been taken account of, right? A different advanced karma could have been taken account of. So in this intuitive fixing, you know, people don't really like the hard cold reality of Saturn, right? Unless they're on, you know, the better side of it, right? And who knows how long the better side of it. So people don't like the duality of life, right? People don't like the bad that comes with the good, and people might not necessarily pay for the good. They might not necessarily pay for the good if they know what bad comes with it, but people could pay for a good, but they might be unknowing to a bad that comes with it, right? Because, you know, Saturn in and out of his own matrix, that Saturn energy, it's very profile-y. It's a profiler. It's like, it's processing. It's a profile processor, right? It's a compressor. And it's a compactor, and it's like it's taking into account all the other energies of where you're working up to be, so you could go where you need to go, right? And somehow within the bigger picture of the esoteric operating system, it's like the whole matrix is trying to tell you where you qualify to go, right? Based on the work you've done, right? So if you have some type, so the conjunctions obviously are the superpowers, right? And the babies being born right now, they have a real ability to use the major conjunction of, you know, Saturn, Mars, the Sun, and Chiron all being in Aries, and other and even and the moon's there, and Mercury and Neptune are creeping into Aries as well. So within that big conjunction, all of those objects are influencing that constellation field, and that constellation field has its own mirror matrix to kind of seed the unconscious Earth, the Earth body, and all of those, you know, conjunctive objects. They're all creating some type of fusion energy, friction power for them to have a party in a certain area. And within that certain area, the sun is bringing light and developing its own higher self character, a certain niche character, where it's just developing itself to be with other beings. And we're getting life force from that whole party of beings, right? So to slow it down even more is I feel like, the negative, a certain type of negative density within the inversion of nature is within the last Kali Yuga. There's a lot of there could be a lot of like what do you call that, there, it just is what it is. It's in the reality, and if you don't want to wake up to it, that's okay. But there's a lot of like racist Saturnalian, like Nazi mentality beings that pretend to be innocent, right? They're pretending to be innocent. They're pretending to be a goody two shoe, whether to whatever degree they realize that or not. And the thing is, within the inversion of that mechanism, they might not even know it, right? Because that's how deep the GMO Saturn, the negative Saturn program runs. So people, they're pretending to be goody two shoe. They're pretending to be innocent, but really, they're pretending to be innocent. They're pretending to be goody two shoe, but really, they're sold out, and they're following up on a guard of some racist Saturnalian Nazi programs. Because I could apply to like something like a boardwalk, right? and I could do everything right, right? But based on their, their GMO Saturn mentality guard contract, they're going to pretend to be goody two shoe. They're going to pretend to do things by the book, but really they're going to be racist, negative Saturnalian beings. And they're just going to profile you, because that's what the Saturn guard does. It's profiling you. It's like, is this going to work for my benefit, for my Saturn pursuit or not? And if it's a threat to me, I'm going to profile the butt off of you or whatever, right? So within the negative Saturn energy, there's a lot of like racist Saturnalian Nazi mentalities that are disguising themselves as goody two shoes and being innocent, and whether they know it or not, and to some degree they do know it, and to some degree they don't know it. But whatever the case is, they're still zapped by the archonic, inverted Saturn energy contracts of it, and they're gonna pretend to be goody two shoes, but they're still going to profile you, and they're still going to do things not by the book, because I could be a regular old person, right? I could apply for the boardwalk, and I could do everything right. But beings there, they're just they're racist, profiling, Nazi mentality beings that are just going to like disregard you because I'm like different, right? So that type of shit that's just what it is within that. So that's just kind of like the personal experience I go through. The gift is the curse is the gift, right? And that's just a casual intro. So let me go back to the chart. So the Saturn energy, it's compressing you, and it's compacting you, it's profiling you. It's the hard, reality karma of it, right? After it's the big dream body. After you get the whole Saturn, chaos and like shenanigans and the shebang shenanigans, that's like the hardest thing to do, right? So like what the Saturn thing is actually, the hardest thing about the Saturn thing is, it's like we have to do so much shadow work to the point where it's easier to accept reality. And if we don't do that shadow work, it's harder to accept reality. Because why is it so hard to accept reality? Because we all have like these unrealistic preferences in our psyche that are not really in equilibrium with the natural ecosystem, and we don't even know it. Programs upon artificial programs without us even knowing it. We have a hard time accepting reality. And if we don't accept reality, then we all have like these sideways pet peeves where we're just gonna like have whatever miscellaneous complaint or dislike, but still, regardless, the Saturn stuff is gonna do what it's gonna do. So since the Saturn stuff is gonna do what it's gonna do, it's like the Saturn stuff is telling us there has to be some type of acceptance, because that operating system mechanism and its own unique, different, alignment spectrum, original open source, it's still going to do what it's going to do, right? It's going to profile you. It's going to compress you within the reality, and it's going to pretty much lead you where you need to be led, right? Based on how you're being compressed in the reality, how you're being compact in the reality. So that's why within the whole last, millennia, the last 100 years, and to the next 100 years, the most tedious thing out of it all is the Saturn stuff, and Saturn is in conjunct within the Aries. So Saturn, that profiling, compressed energy, it's gonna profile and compress energies in the flavor of cardinal fire, of like bringing forth new individualization and like, I guess, natural human creativity works, etc. And I'll go back to my notes. So that's going to be capped, right? Just as is, right? So within that, like the thing that's going to be capped is just kind of like, you really have to like find who you are, what your place is, what you're good at, what your long-term career is, in something of a notion of kind of like, how you should find your natural individual self. And if you can't find your natural individual self, the Saturn thing will compress you so much at a different point beyond the humans. It's going to compress you where like you have to slow down to find your natural individual self, right? So now let me explain. So the ordering of this is, I put Saturn because that's just the most tedious thing. And Saturn is also respectively exalted in the earth signs, right? And the sun is going to be in Taurus pretty soon, right? There's some after the Saturn, it's good to just go straight to the Neptune energy of like your dream body to see like what dream work and fantasy work you have to do so you could not let the desires and lusts get the best of you. So it's not just the Saturn stuff. There's higher benevolent, like angelic guardian guides that will help you overcome desire and lust. How do you overcome desire and lust? By knowing that you have to be professional in the field that you're in. You have to maintain some type of professionality that fulfills your career. And that is a different type of natural, different context of lust. And within that natural context of lust, by focusing on what fulfills you, your professional career, then you could go beyond the desires and the lust, right? Because the lust might cloud you from doing your actual professional thing. So this is a real esoteric journey, right? And the underground has been like a different type of energetic king since underground 2018. And I'm not trying to prove anything. This is just for my own record, right? So anybody could have their own profile based, inverted nature taxing Saturnalia GMO programs. And ironically, without them even knowing it, within the pain of it, protest against that shit while they have the programs for that shit, right? So this is 2026. I get all this protest shit. I get all this entry level confusion and fighting the wrong war, but the predecessors have our back, right? So the intuitive fixing for this is, and hopefully this isn't choppy, right? So I'm just gonna, I could actually go for a long time, but the quality of the live, I don't know if it's like really coming through, right? So I'm just gonna read the notes, and I'm just gonna I could explain like the squares, right? Saturn squaring the Earth and Jupiter and etc. And what that square will make is some type of fusion pressure alignment field within the solar system spatial atmosphere arena, and the unconscious Earth will kind of receive those codes, and in some type of esoteric ionosphere, those codes will be kind of like delegated based on the higher spatial objects in the sky, making some type of fusion pressure alignment angular field, original open source. So what the Aries energy to Taurus energy is actually saying within the objects that are amplifying that energy of influence to kind of give us a more bold, sharper focus is Aries to Taurus is kind of saying like we're kind of like embodying the self to transitioning to a new vision, right? So the Taurus is like that new kind of vision that's happening, right? So within that new vision, all of the work from everything else, it's gonna kind of be more so. I feel like Taurus season amplifies like the digitalization respectively, or just kind of like the visual periphery of it, right? So within that, but like since everyone's like kind of hot on the AI stuff, the digitalization of the AI, it could be more kind of like penciled in within Taurus season because it's kind of like an eye for the detail. The earth signs could be like some type of like eye for like the detail. Like people are noticing, your face expressions and your hygiene and like your shoes, right? So within Taurus season, people could be like critical, right? It just is what it is. Overly critical, right? Within the Kali Yuga of the last 6,000 years, critical to a point where you just have to have some type of esoteric resilience where you just got to let it be, right? Because people like, it just on an esoteric mature level, like people could be putrid, right? Just straight putrid, and that's just what it is, right? So I'm just gonna explain this really quick. I might do a part two because I don't know if the quality is on par right now, but I think it should be. Um, so I just did Saturn, Neptune, Venus, Mercury, Earth, Jupiter, Moon, South Node, North Node, Sun, Pluto, and then from Pluto to Chiron, right here, that's like your own entrapment right there. That's your own healing journey. That's your own. What's my favorite animal? Someone asks. Myself. And then from Pluto to Chiron, that's kind of like, that's kind of like your own recuperation work after Chiron to Lilith, asking the mother for some type of mercy, you know, asking the mother, like the mother is kind of like the first kind of metaphorical quote unquote God to you, right? Because she's your caretaker. She's the one that's nourishing you. And then after Lilith is the Uranus. And after Lilith, we could then go to seeing like a different type of natural steward, most respectively, of pro-human life standardly without the duality of it, just as is. And then after the Uranus, then we could just go straight to like why we are doing this, right? So why are we doing this? So I chose this order because Saturn is like, we really have to get like, this hard karma in order. Neptune, let's go straight to like what the desire fusses about and the substance of that. Venus is the surface level of the Neptune because Neptune and Venus are the same octaves respectively. And Venus is like the surface level of that. And then Mercury is kind of like the institution, go by the book. Earth is like what's really in the collective shadow. Jupiter is, okay, like this is a good connection right here. Jupiter is like, mastering that shadow and going above that shadow. Now we know how to feel within like proper esoteric institutional law, Mercury and Jupiter right here. Now we could have some type of dignified moon feeling after the South Node and North Node. They're going to pull us within however the moon has its South Node and North Node mechanisms, however that's aligned. It's going to pull us to energies of familiarity and similarity and similarity, South Node and North Node. It's going to pull us to like what energy trailing offsprings we have to do to be on par with where we're headed. Sun is like pretty much the life force of the constellation, the exaltation of the sun, the life force of being you. By being you, you get your own life force. By embodying you, you get your own life force. Sun in Aries. Pluto, that's doing its own thing. Let me read my notes for Pluto. Dark gods doing their own thing. Chiron. So I wrote some notes. I'm going to do a part two because I want this part to be swift. So I'm going to do a part two. So I'm just kind of like, this is the intuitive fixing of it, right? And then after Chiron is, and then obviously I'll explain like, I could explain the aspects and then I could explain within the notes what it really means. So I'm going to do a part two. I just wanted to kind of like, if you see it in the past, if you see my readings of this style in the past, I go more detail. I just need to do this surface level stuff. And I'm just on my own like intuitive tip where like people could be like, well, what are you waiting for? Well, the thing is like, there's a collective rigidity. And then obviously I have my own individual rigidity, right? It's like, well, what are you waiting for? Well, like there's a mechanism, and I'm not trying to blame it on it. I'm just saying there's a profiling mechanism that's compressing me where I'm not like necessarily like there's just a profiling mechanism that I'm working through collectively, right? So as I'm working through that profiling mechanism, it's just a different challenge for me to like, stabilize the rigidity so I could be okay with, starting from square one, right? Original open source or whatever. Starting from square one so I could actually have, a steadfast fluidity with any project that I'm undergoing. while simultaneously I'm doing some ironic as F collective contributive work for all of these silly, ironic, confused Saturnalian mental GMO protesty programs, right? The predecessors have gave us the knowledge 15 years ago on a different esoteric tip to go beyond it, right? And by me doing that, it's not necessarily I'm not necessarily like sacrificing myself, but energetically there is a sacrifice, because whatever you put in, that's like the effort is being sacrificed, right? And the energy is being sacrificed on a different metaphor, right? So I'm going to do a part 2. I just wanted to be swift with kind of the new moon programming of the intuitive fixing of this. I'll do a part 2 that will read that will like read more details of what it really means for the planets to be in those constellations, right? So this was just a quick one because I just wanted to like kind of program the intuitive fixing of it, right? And I think it's neat to like put Saturn first, because that's where the work is, right? That's where the fuss is. That's where the profiling mechanism is. Aside from everybody's dualities of likes and dislikes, the matrix is going to, kind of lead you to where you need to be led based on its compressing mechanism. You have the best life ever.